Okay, welcome one and all to another reaction video. Today we're doing a Star Wars video. I'm a huge Star Wars nerd. I'm into a lot of fandoms like anime, Star Wars, Disney, so on and so forth. One of my favorite things is Star Wars, so I could talk about that all day. This channel is the best on Star Wars I have ever seen on YouTube, and there's a lot of good Star Wars content on YouTube, but this is the best channel. It's the Stupendous Wave. They've been making content for years. 1.6 million subscribers. They earn every one of them. And I even listened, so I went to Disneyland recently, and I even listened to a bunch of videos instead of like listening to the radio on my way there. It's a 6 hour drive for me, so that's a lot of Star Wars content. I've also been a nerd since the 90s for Star Wars, since I saw The New Hope, which my dad forced me to watch. It was fantastic. Obi-Wan Kenobi has been my favorite character in all of Star Wars since seeing The New Hope in, I think, 1993. So that's how long I've been an Obi-Wan fan too. I agree with like 99% of everyone's takes on Stupendous Wave, so that's fantastic. However, some of the Obi-Wan takes I don't agree with. It depends on the video. I haven't seen this one, which is what we're gonna watch now. Obi-Wan writer reveals Darth Vader should have won the final. I think this is talking about the series of Obi-Wan, which has a lot of, what can I say? It has a lot of faulty things in the series, and I think it broke a lot of Star Wars canon, which isn't a good thing at all. However, I do like the series because I am an Obi-Wan fan, but I think it should have been done better. So I do have problems with it, but there are certain moments I really liked in it. So let's get to it and see what they have to say. Okay, let me make sure I'm recording real quick, because, okay, I am. Alright, let's see what they have to say. The writer says Darth Vader should have won the final in Obi-Wan.
Another video. The Obi-Wan Kenobi series concluded with an epic confrontation between Vader and Obi-Wan himself. However, with this came a lot of controversy as to exactly how the duel ended, with Obi-Wan Kenobi calling upon all of his strength and defeating the Dark Lord once again, with many people confused about this, as this is an era in Darth Vader's life.
So, one thing I do have to say, they probably should admit, I do admit back after the Mustafar incident, I do like that it happened because I think I really enjoyed the fight. And with them coming back, I do think Obi-Wan should have been the victor, and there was reasons in New Hope why I think this had to be the way if they met back, is because in A New Hope, Darth Vader approaches Obi-Wan almost afraid of what Obi-Wan can do, and he actually takes time probing Obi-Wan and his powers. The literature for New Hope says that Darth Vader was growing more confident with each strike because he could feel Obi-Wan's power weaker than he expected. But he was still scared and wary of Obi-Wan to the point where what if Obi-Wan had something that he didn't realize or would boost in power. Darth Vader may have not been afraid of Obi-Wan, but he was very cautious of Obi-Wan during the New Hope fight. And to tell you the truth, the fight would have actually been more spectacular if Lucas had the technology to do it, or the time to do it. The fight on film did not reflect Lucas's version of how the fight actually went.
Time where he should absolutely be within his prime. It's 10 years after the events of Revenge of the Sith.
And that is correct. Darth Vader was definitely in his prime 10 years after Revenge of the Sith. He was actually still in his prime during A New Hope as well. Darth Vader only starts to get weaker by Return of the Jedi. And that's for specific reasons that we can talk about later.
He's been doing nothing but hunt down Order 66 survivors. Some of the most powerful Jedi were of course the ones that survived Order 66. This is a Darth Vader that
True. A lot of powerful Jedi actually survived the original purge, like the Jedi librarian, who was actually the first person to realize that Anakin was still alive, and she died because Vader couldn't let that secret out. She didn't die during the purge. She died coming back to the Jedi Temple to retrieve archives that she left behind when she escaped originally, and that's the only reason she got caught by Darth Vader. But the Jedi actually form a little while after the purge. The remaining Jedi form on a planet to restart the Jedi Order, and Darth Vader finds out and goes and attacks that planet and the stronghold. In original canon, Obi-Wan has no idea that Vader is Anakin Skywalker, and the only reason he finds out is he was watching the news at a bar on Tatooine, and it shows Vader coming out of a ship in order to attack the remaining Jedi that had formed, like trying to rebuild the Jedi Order, and they were all holed up in this stronghold on a planet, and Obi-Wan could sense through the Force that Anakin Skywalker was still alive and inside Vader's suit. And that's the way in canon that Obi-Wan figured out that Vader was Anakin Skywalker. All right.
Is also fully submerged in the dark side of the Force as of right now. There's nothing within Vader that is redeemable at this point in time because the introduction of Luke is what ultimately draws the light back within Vader. This Vader, though, has none of that, so he's fully committed to the path of the dark side, which should make him more powerful. But as we've explained before, in the logic of the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, Obi-Wan draws Anakin out, but not Anakin's light side, rather his hatred for his former master. And it is this hatred that
This makes for the
makes Darth Vader.
This is true actually. So this makes a lot of sense within the fight that Disney presented us. That Darth Vader would be not at his best when facing Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan would be at his best because he is again doing what he does is protects the things he loves and the galaxy around him and fights for, I hate saying the word greater good because it is used in so many bad things, but we're just going to call it like the right way to say the greater good. Alright, and Obi-Wan is very committed to the Force and committed to, protecting the galaxy as a whole. So Obi-Wan would be coming at his strongest and best here, and Anakin would not. He would be conflicted the whole time, diminishing his power.
Lose once again as he becomes brash and is unprepared for the might of Obi-Wan. He's no longer the calm, calculated sickle that he would have been fighting any other Jedi, as essentially...
True. So when he kills Jedis after the purge and he fights some of the strongest Jedis, right? He's cool and calculated. It's not with this burning hatred that he has for Obi-Wan, that was once his greatest friend, his mentor, his brother, that he sees that Obi-Wan betrayed him when he left him on Mustafar. And it was such a great betrayal. It was the ultimate betrayal. He's been betrayed by the Jedi. Now he's being betrayed by his brother. He has a burning hatred for Obi-Wan Kenobi that would blind him in a fight like this. It's only when we get the Death Star fight that Vader hasn't put away his hatred on Obi-Wan, but he learns how to control it during that and not during that fight, but before that fight. And when he comes into it, he's cool and calculating. Now Vader during the Obi-Wan fight, if you read the literature, is not 100% cool or calculating. He is still very weary of Obi-Wan and treats Obi-Wan with a degree that he wouldn't treat any other Jedi that he would be facing. Even if he was facing Yoda, found him on Dagobah, he would not be as weary as he is against Obi-Wan.
When Obi-Wan fights Vader, he's at his most powerful, but when Vader fights Obi-Wan, Vader himself is at his weakest. This left
agreed. There is not a single duelist in the history of Star Wars that Vader would have a harder time fighting. It wouldn't be Luke, it wouldn't be Yoda, it wouldn't be some of the greatest duelists in galactic history. Obi-Wan is literally his kryptonite.
Many confused, however, as this Vader at this point in time very much should have been far more than a match for Obi-Wan Kenobi.
If you saw Rogue One, wasn't this a great scene? This gave me a lot of hope in Disney Star Wars, which I guess I shouldn't have had the hope because it's Disney and they care more about political messaging than making a good story, right? But this scene in Star Wars Rogue One gave me a lot of hope. In fact, the Rogue One movie was probably the best Star Wars was probably the best Star Wars movie that Disney ever made, and it was one that I thought they were going to do a bad job. They took a 1 5 minute conversation about how many people died to get us these Death Star plans in A New Hope and created a whole movie around it, and it actually worked. And this was a tremendous scene in that movie.
And by all intents and purposes, Darth Vader should have won this duel, by the logic proposed.
Okay, so Darth Vader should have won this duel if he was at his best. I do disagree with that just a tiny bit, and this is why. Obi-Wan gets slept on a lot, and then he gets overpowered. So, in the 2000s, everyone thought Obi-Wan was a terrible duelist, a terrible Jedi. Then you get more into the lore, and by 2010 onward, Obi-Wan is seen as this overpowered Jedi, which I think is closer to the fact. But then you get to like the 2020 and beyond, and people begin sleeping on Obi-Wan again. Make no mistake, Obi-Wan is one of the greatest duelists to ever come out of the Jedi Order, now and forever. Not only is he the master of Form 3 Surisu, he also has a lot of Force abilities that other Jedi's do not have, like beast taming and a skill with Tutor Menace where he can block fire, which is actually extremely hard for Jedis to do. Even though Yoda has a superior Tutor Menace where he can block Force Lightning, Obi-Wan can block Force Lightning with the help of a lightsaber. But that's something that a lot of Jedis just simply cannot do. Obi-Wan is exceptional, and not because he was born that way. He's kind of like Naruto or Luffy or any like anime protagonist where he had to work hard to get to where he's at. Where Anakin, Yoda, Sidious, Darth Plagueis, and so on were all naturally gifted. Obi-Wan is one of the only stories in all Star Wars where he is not gifted at all. He is, how should I put it? His force powers are not up to snuff with other Jedi at the beginning of his training. He was not chosen to be a Padawan. Obi-Wan is one of the greatest stories in Star Wars of a man who worked hard to get to where he was. And he became, as far as power in the Force, and as far as lightsaber dueling, he became part of the 1%. He is an elite Jedi no matter where you look. Even though there are stronger Jedi, his dueling style allows him to defeat stronger opponents than what he should be able to defeat. Alright.
Posed by Lucasfilm themselves, as Darth Vader is often depicted as more powerful than Anakin on Mustafar. Not because he's more naturally powerful, but just because of the fact that he's far more intelligent of a fighter.
This is true. If you rewatch the Mustafar fight, which is something that Lucas did something very well in, Obi-Wan for the whole fight leads Anakin down corridors that would hamper Anakin's tremendous strikes. Every place that Obi-Wan led Anakin through the Force, right, was a way of destroying Anakin's immense power over him. Now, Anakin is far more powerful than Obi-Wan, but Obi-Wan is far more intelligent and a better duelist than Anakin, even though Anakin and Vader together are one of the best duelists in all of Star Wars. I think Obi-Wan is better. And Obi-Wan leads Anakin through that whole Mustafar thing, even getting Anakin to break the shields on the Mustafar base in order to lead Anakin down to the lava. If you don't think this was planned, this was incredibly planned while Obi-Wan was fighting, on the moment, using the Force in order to get the advantage on Anakin. And that's how he fought everybody. That's how it was said in literature and in the Clone Wars that fighting Obi-Wan was so frustrating because you think you would be winning. You think you would have him on his back foot, and in a blink of an eye, he would turn the battle around and you would lose your head. That's what fighting Obi-Wan was like.
Experienced and far more ruthless. And it appears as if the head writer of the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, who sat down with Star Wars Direct, actually agrees with this fully, as apparently in his ending of the Obi-Wan Kenobi series and the original ending, Vader too would have defeated Obi-Wan. But let's go ahead and break it all down here. This comes from the article. When asked about the duels between Obi-Wan and Vader in this series and how they differed from his original script, Beatty started by saying that his version of their fight took place on a space station that Vader was actually the victor of. The writer revealed that Vader pushed
I think this would be a mistake, and let me tell you why. This would be canon breaking if Vader won. I think the best thing that they could have done is maybe had a stalemate in the fight where, if they're fighting on a space station, right? Have the space station break apart in half or something weird happen where they had to separate, right? They couldn't finish the fight. But Vader can't be the winner because it would be too lore breaking. He is so weary of Obi-Wan on the Death Star to the point of paranoia. Fighting Obi-Wan. He's not afraid of Obi-Wan, but he is afraid of what Obi-Wan can do. And to tell you the truth, Anakin / Vader, and he's Vader, but again, he would not be afraid to fight Obi-Wan on the Death Star, and he would not be weary of Obi-Wan on the Death Star if he would have won this battle. That's just my opinion. I don't have any proof on it, but if you defeated someone before that defeated you going into the third match, I think you would have a lot more confidence, and he would have been a lot more aggressive towards Obi-Wan in the Death Star fight.
Obi-Wan off of the station, which separated them and didn't allow the fight to finish. In my version, Darth Vader won.
Oh, okay, so didn't allow the fight to finish, but Darth Vader would be the clear victor. Again, I don't think that would work, even though they had the separation that I just mentioned. I still don't think that would work. Vader cannot win this fight. The stalemate is fine, and I think Obi-Wan winning the fight is fine. I don't think Darth Vader can win this fight and have what happened in A New Hope and how he approached the lightsaber fight on the Death Star. I think that is lore breaking.
In the fight, they were fighting on this space station. It was falling apart in the atmosphere of this big planet, and Obi-Wan basically fell off of it. Vader pushed him off and they were separated. They didn't get the chance to find Obi-Wan following, but what was going through Obi-Wan's mind is the same thing that happened in the series, that being, my brother is truly dead. He's gone, and while I absolve him of that guilt because I didn't kill him.
Now, to be clear, Obi-Wan did lose a duel against Vader in the series. I think it was like episode 3. It was halfway through where Vader totally kicked Obi-Wan, but that was because Obi-Wan hadn't used the Force in a long time, and he just picked up his lightsaber. Obi-Wan was highly out of practice and not utilizing his power, and was naturally just afraid of Vader. And I think if the series left off at that, that would have been a huge mistake. Obi-Wan kicking Vader after losing that duel. Ironically, the Death Star would have been the 4th duel, and Obi-Wan would have won 3 of them. Or he would have won 2 of them before the Death Star fight, with Vader winning 1. But because Obi-Wan won the last fight in such a spectacular way, I think that brings credence to why Darth Vader would be weary of Obi-Wan on the Death Star. I think Obi-Wan had to win that final fight.
Vader killed Anakin. I'm still just devastated. I'm absolutely devastated. Beatty also talked about the importance of having them be separated in the duel because Obi-Wan would have to kill Vader if he had the chance to in order to save Count.
Okay, so that's a good point. The stalemate probably is the best way, but again, Vader can't be the victor of the stalemate. Stalemate would be the best way because I agree with this point. This is a great point. Vader should be dead. Obi-Wan should have killed Vader at this point instead of just walking away. He would have been concerned about the galaxy. He would have been concerned about people. He would have ended it right here. Jedi prophecy or not. Obi-Wan does not give mercy to Anakin on Mustafar like most people think. Obi-Wan believed that Anakin was going to die and that he gave it into the Force's hands. Obi-Wan also believed, if you read the Revenge of the Sith literature, that he would be turning to the dark side if he gave Anakin a quick death, if he went down there and cut off his head, because he would have been sparing Anakin from the pain he deserved. It is Obi-Wan didn't kill Anakin because he was afraid he was going to turn to the dark side, and he believed that Anakin deserved that pain. He fully expected Anakin to die on the shore. He did not. I can excuse that walk away. The walk away in this series is stupid. Obi-Wan would not have this. Jedi prophecy or not, he fully believed that Anakin is dead and that Vader won. And Obi-Wan would, even though Obi-Wan is one of the greatest he's one of the greatest Jedi's to trust in the Force and be able to be taken over by the Force in moments, quite like his master Qui-Gon. Obi-Wan would have sliced off Anakin's head right here in this series. There's no doubt in my mind. So him walking away, that is lore breaking. That is stupid. I agree with the stalemate. I don't agree with Darth Vader winning. Darth Vader had to believe that Obi-Wan at this point was still stronger. Even if it wasn't true, he had to believe that Obi-Wan had his number, or he would have approached the New Hope battle differently. Okay.
Countless lives, which were mainly other Jedi. The writer also continued talking about this movie, specifically how the beginning of it depicted Vader as being the big grand Jedi killer. To me, if Obi-Wan had a chance to kill Darth Vader, he would do it. I mean,
Obi-Wan, this is true. Darth Vader is the ultimate Jedi killer. When Darth Vader was born and Anakin died on the shores of Mustafar, Darth Vader had to relearn all forms of lightsaber combat again, and not be able to specialize in Form 5 like Anakin did, because he was not quick anymore. He was not fast. He was stronger, physically stronger, but he was less strong in the Force because of his midichlorian count and because of his mental blocks, as Sidious puts it. So, yeah, he had to relearn everything, and he actually made his own lightsaber form with bits of Obi-Wan's Suriso in it on purpose, a bit of Makasi from Dooku, and everyone that Anakin or Darth Vader ever fought, he borrowed lightsaber forms from and created his own unique form in order to kill Jedi. Fighting Vader became, at least for Jedi, fighting Vader became impossible. Every strike would break their arms, even if they blocked it. Darth Vader is the ultimate Jedi killer. It's just he never had Obi-Wan's number and never could have Obi-Wan's number. Obi-Wan is not a normal Jedi and probably the hardest Jedi to kill.
You know how many countless lives he would ultimately save, especially knowing that Vader would be hunting other Jedi, which was established in the show. The film began with Vader taking on 5 Jedi at once and killing all of them, so it established that he is the big Jedi killer.
Yeah, so I didn't agree with the film idea. Obi-Wan, I think this, if you're going to tell a new story about Obi-Wan, I feel like a series is the better way to go, which Disney did. Which I was happy to do, or hear that they did when it came out. However, I do think that they did a poor job of execution. The movie, I don't know if they would have done a poor job of execution, but I think it would have been too short-lived, in my opinion. Now, if they made it like Rogue One, probably would have been very successful, and I probably would have been a very happy person. But I do like that it's a series. I just wish they did a better job with that series.
Killer. The Inquisitors are capturing them, but Vader is the big daddy who comes in and just kills all of them without hesitation. So according to the head writer, not only
which is very canon before Disney bought, Vader had fighting Vader for most Jedis would be quick and done in a second. One of the best representations in video games was like the Star Killer games, but also the Jedi Survivor games. I'm going to call them Jedi Survivors. I don't remember what the first game was called, even though it was the better of the two. It was also very short, which I wish it was a little bit longer. Jedi Survivor, the second game, was longer, but I think it wasn't as good, but it was still pretty good. I think the representation in Vader as the final fight in the first game was what most Jedi's would experience. You either run away or you die. And I think that was an incredible depiction on how Vader was against Jedi. Vader is the Jedi's worst nightmare.
Vader depicted as the ultimate victor in his duel with Obi-Wan, but the Obi-Wan Kenobi film was going to open with Vader dueling up to 5 Jedi at once. Presumably, he would have given them their lightsabers back after the Inquisitors captured them, wanting to prove his superiority over the Jedi.
That would have been a fantastic scene to watch. It would have been very, it would have paid homage to original canon. It really would. Vader could take on 5 Jedi. No problem, even if they were very skilled. There is some Jedi that can give Vader problems, but again, ultimately Vader wins against every Jedi. Kenobi would be probably his worst challenge, even more than Yoda at the point of New Hope.
Jedi and truly making Vader into this menace. This individual that is undoubtedly still more powerful than Obi-Wan, and it is only the fact that Obi-Wan Kenobi is ultimately separated by Darth.
Again, there is no contest, even though I'm an Obi-Wan fanboy. There is no contest. Anakin is stronger than Obi-Wan, but again, Obi-Wan's fighting style and his genius as a duelist, he has defeated opponents that are far more powerful than he is. From Maul to Grievous, I mean, Obi-Wan it should have been so scary to the Sith. I know Palpatine didn't really give him the time of day, but Obi-Wan probably hampered the Sith's plans more than anybody in all of Star Wars. And that includes Yoda. Alright.
Vader in their confrontation that he is able to live. The writer also talked about how people needed to actually believe that Vader was the one who killed Anakin, with him saying, quote, "How does someone talk about Darth Vader betraying and murdering Anakin?"
This is actually a good point. Obi-Wan's philosophy and giving up on Anakin was very important for how this series needed to end if it ended with one season. There is some scuttlebutt that Obi-Wan will get a season 2. Not sure if it's going to happen, but the rumors are floating out there that it's going to happen. So I'm hopeful, and I hope they do a better job. But I'm not sure if they can include Vader in it because of what happened in season 1. However, Vader can't win this fight. It would make the New Hope battle seem weird at this point. Yeah. That's all I gotta say on that.
And actually believe it. There's got to have been more to that story. And then Padme said,
"Oh, I guess I should have talked about Vader killing Anakin right here." Yeah, so they needed to have this happen. They needed to have a reason for why Obi-Wan believed this, because Obi-Wan gives up on Anakin right here, and that's very homage to the canon lore, or the original canon. That Obi-Wan even counsels Luke that Anakin's dead, and I think this was a very good reason, they put in here to why he thinks Anakin's dead. I like that they really gave the reason for this at the end of the season 1.
Obi-Wan as she died in his arms. There's still good in him, and the idea that he thought Anakin was dead. He thought he killed his brother this whole time, so she was wrong. But now, Anakin is alive, and oh my god, maybe Padme was right. Maybe there really is still good in him. So where did Vader get the sense that Obi-Wan thought there was still good in him? It was that line from Return of the Jedi that convinced them to hire me to write this story. When talking about his version of Vader.
Yeah, that line was a very good one, and I wish Disney would have stuck more truthful to it when making this series. I think the writer had the right point right there. Again, I disagree with the writer that Vader should have won the final fight. I think that doesn't pay homage to New Hope. Obi-Wan, it needed to be a stalemate where Vader doubted that he could beat Obi-Wan at this point. Or it needed to be a decisive victory from Kenobi, which I think the stalemate will Vader is confused at if he could really take Obi-Wan at the end of it would have been the best choice. I think the second best choice was what we got was Obi-Wan having a clear decisive victory over Vader. Remember, Vader is not fighting at his best and Obi-Wan is fighting at his best, which brings credence to how Obi-Wan won. And again, Obi-Wan is one of the best duelists that has ever lived in the Jedi Order. He's not some pushover like some people believe. He is part of the 1% of Jedi that can, give Vader a run for his money, but also defeat a Sith. I believe Obi-Wan is a Sith killer. I really do. And I do believe that Obi-Wan could defeat the likes of even Darth Plagueis. Maybe I'll do a video on why I believe that. But it also has to do with a lot of the mindsets. And I do believe if Obi-Wan encountered Darth Plagueis in a lightsaber fight, I do believe Obi-Wan would win. Now, against Sidious, I don't think Obi-Wan could win. Not because of his dueling ability. Even though Sidious is incredibly fast, I do believe Obi-Wan would be able to block every one of his strikes. It's the Force ability, and Sidious would throw away his lightsaber, rely on the Force, and Obi-Wan would have no counter for that. So, in dueling capabilities, Obi-Wan is at the top. In Force abilities, Obi-Wan is part of the 1%. But when you have part of the 1% being Yoda and Sidious, he is outclassed in Force abilities, not dueling abilities with a lightsaber.
BD described him as obsessed with Obi-Wan and obsessed with the concept of revenge. To me, Vader in this period is just so obsessed with Kenobi, so obsessed with revenge. You know that he just wants to put a lightsaber through Obi-Wan, and he doesn't want this to be the last
Very
second
important
thing.
mindset
He doesn't
on
want
why
his
Vader
pain
loses.
to last one more moment. He wants to kill this guy. In my film, he was under pressure from the Emperor from the very beginning. Pressure to forget about Kenobi. That's Anakin, and that is something that you need to...
It's funny that they touch on this. Palpatine actually got very upset at Anakin going after Obi-Wan the way he does. Anakin goes after the Jedi Order after becoming Vader and retraining with the lightsaber and everything almost religiously. He goes after the Order that he feels betrayed him. And to an aspect they did, they drove Ahsoka away from him. They separated Obi-Wan and Anakin when Anakin needed Obi-Wan the most. And they were very blindsided by the Clone Wars. Like, sending Obi-Wan to take care of Grievous was probably the right tactical move, but again, they didn't sense the struggles of Anakin going on, and taking away his brother at that moment proved to be a crucial mistake. Again, they weren't wise enough to see that mistake. So, yeah, okay. Well, let's move on.
Go up. It's explained that Palpatine has this...
Oh yeah, okay. So Palpatine, that's why I was forgetting to talk about. Palpatine is very upset with Anakin that he's only caring about killing Jedi, but also killing Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan is the main reason that that Anakin goes after, or Vader goes after all the Jedi, right? He wants to find Obi-Wan. He wants to kill him. He wants to take revenge on his brother for leaving him on Mustafar. The biggest betrayal in his life up to that point. Till he finds out that Obi-Wan stole Luke and Leia and kept them secret from him. Well, not stole, but was given them and kept them secret all these years, right? Yeah, Obi-Wan is Anakin's biggest weakness, his kryptonite. Everything he hates about the Jedi Order is manifested within Obi-Wan Kenobi at this point.
problem with Vader.
And Palpatine, again, I keep on forgetting to touch on this. Palpatine has had enough at this point. He hates that Vader goes after Obi-Wan. He thinks that it's stopping his main potential. He thinks that it's a mind block that Vader can overcome his midi-chlorian count. He can overcome his, weaknesses by losing most of his body. But in Palpatine's mind, Vader does not. Palpatine loves the Sith Darth Magus. If you heard from him, he's Darth Magus is very, how should I put it, famous now because of the Star Wars online game, which again I did play for a long time. Uh, but Darth Magus was incredibly hurt and had to be in a respirator, and so was Darth Plagueis, by the way. So Sidious knew that the Force could overcome disabilities, but in his mind, Vader's biggest disability was his mind blocks by going after Kenobi, because in his mindset, that would be something that Anakin would do, not Darth Vader. Darth Vader should look at Obi-Wan just like any other Jedi, just like any other opponent, and not feel a thing. But that's not what's going on here. The Anakin's coming out, and because Anakin has such a strong bond with Obi-Wan, whether he loves him or hates him, that bond is there, and that's the reason why Obi-Wan is the most devastating opponent for Anakin, and even more devastating than Luke or anybody else ever in Star Wars history. His biggest kryptonite is Obi-Wan Kenobi.
And this problem is Kenobi and his obsession, with it ultimately concluding in the series concluding with Vader believing that he killed Obi-Wan by pushing him off of the space station, and this is why he is at peace with him and he is able to move forward.
There's some credence to that, but again, I think it would be lore breaking for Darth Vader to think he's won in any way, because again, he wouldn't have that trepidation about Obi-Wan in A New Hope that we know about. How he carefully approached Obi-Wan, how he held back because he was weary about what Obi-Wan had in store for him.
Forward past Obi-Wan, not because of the concept that he lets Obi-Wan go and lets him escape in the end and decides not to go after him, which is what the series did, but the idea that in Vader's mind he succeeded.
That was a mistake. There needed to be a standstill or a reason why Obi-Wan wouldn't cut off Vader's head in this moment. There had to be some reason, and the series did not give us that reason.
And he finally killed his former master, with this relating to why Darth Vader was so surprised in A New Hope to sense Obi-Wan again, and why he immediately went after him. So based off of all of this, we were going to get a very different movie than the TV.
I think that's lore breaking. Vader was mildly surprised that he could feel Obi-Wan and immediately went after him. He was because he hadn't felt Obi-Wan in so long. It wasn't because he thought Obi-Wan was dead or perished. He tricked Palpatine into thinking that he gave up on Obi-Wan, so he couldn't go out and look for Obi-Wan anymore. So when Obi-Wan arrives at the Death Star and Darth Vader felt him, he was mildly surprised, a little excited, and a little weary. He was not like, "Oh crap, I killed Obi-Wan 10 years ago. How can this be?" No, it wasn't like that. So I still disagree with him thinking that he killed Obi-Wan would have been the right play. I don't agree with the writer.
Series that we ultimately got. Vader was going to end up the victor, pushing Obi-Wan Kenobi off of a space station after besting him in lightsaber combat. Obi-Wan was apparently going to go through the same emotions that he went through over the course of the series, realizing that Vader truly is the one that defeated Anakin, and was the one that killed Anakin in the end. It was still going to be definitive though, that Darth Vader was the superior duelist and combatant, and that Obi-Wan lied.
I disagree. Again, Darth Vader, Anakin, is said to be the better duelist by most people because of what he did in the Clone Wars and what Vader accomplished by killing so many high-level Jedi at the end. I do disagree with the writer that Anakin is the better duelist. I think Obi-Wan, for all intents and purposes, is the better duelist over Anakin, and may have been the best duelist on the light side ever. However, there are a lot of other worthy candidates that you can make a case for that could have been way better than Obi-Wan. However, I think I can go toe to toe with any one of them and show why Obi-Wan is the greatest duelist on the light side. On the dark side, and I'm not a dark side fan by any means. There are some duelists that may be way better than Obi-Wan, like XR Kun and other things. But again, I could debate that, but I don't know if I would really believe my reasoning over some duelists like those. But again, I do think Obi-Wan is one of the greatest, if not the greatest, duelist in all of Star Wars. And Anakin, even though one of the greatest duelists, I do not think is better than Obi-Wan.
Lost their confrontation. But for this video especially, I would love to hear your input. What are your thoughts on this film and how this was going to conclude
I'm going to
with
link
Obi-Wan
the video
and
so
Vader,
they're going to know
and
my
Vader
thoughts.
being the victor? What are your thoughts on how the series concluded with Obi-Wan actually defeating Darth Vader and then having that final moment together? Which of the two stories do you prefer, and do you like what we ultimately got in the series, or would you have preferred this to be a...
I like the conclusion in the series better than what I just heard. However, I think it was a mistake to have Obi-Wan walk away the way he did. I don't think that is true to the character. I also think that the stalemate would have been the better thing, with Vader not being 100% confident that he would have won if the fight continued. I do think that Obi-Wan at this time period would have bested Vader, and like we got in the series. Just because Vader would be at his weakest and Obi-Wan would be at his strongest at this point. Not stronger than he was on Mustafar, not as strong as he would be, say, during the at the end of the Clone Wars, not the beginning. He's definitely stronger than the beginning of the Clone Wars. But Obi-Wan's Force powers, even though he wasn't using the Force, would have continued to grow in some way because he was still talking to Qui-Gon, was still doing this. So I thought when Obi-Wan was using the rocks to pelt Anakin, I thought this was a good symbol on how far his Force powers had come after he reactivated them. So I thought that was a really good interpretation, because we don't see anything like this in other depictions of Obi-Wan, where he's just using the Force to overpower his enemies. Now, Anakin has greater power in the Force. There was no mistaking it. But at this moment, Obi-Wan was truly more powerful than Anakin, like he was on Mustafar. And it goes with the mindset that Obi-Wan has. Also, if you don't know this, one of Obi-Wan's greatest abilities is trusting in the Force and allowing the Force to control his actions by his blade. Obi-Wan's not really fighting. He's allowing himself to become a conduit of the Force, and the Force is fighting on his behalf using his body. And again, Anakin doesn't have this type of relationship with the Force. He bends the Force to his will. Obi-Wan allows the Force to use him for its own will. So,
feature film, with Vader very clearly being this mega powerful big bad guy from the very beginning. As always, my friends and students of the Force, thank you so much for watching the channel and continuing to support it. May the Force be with you, and have a great day.
Okay, here's some of the merch. This is one of my favorite Star Wars channels of all time. And this video I didn't disagree with that much at all. And what I disagreed with the writer, not them reporting on what the writer said. So, and then we type in, it's a great video. Well, actually, I cannot write. I have, I'll give them a comment after this video. I have a key that I have bound for my recording. So it's actually my R and S key. R is for record, S is to stop. So if I type something, it just stops the recording. But yeah, this is one of my favorite channels. I would subscribe to them if I were you, and if you're a Star Wars fan. They have hours, 4K videos right here. They have hours and hours of entertainment that you could watch. And as you see, I've been a fan of these guys for years. I don't watch every video, but with how much I've been listening to them lately, I probably will get to every video, but I've been watching them for years. All right, that's all I have for now. Have a great day, guys, and I'll see you soon.